Welcome to another episode of Founded in Transcreation, the first ever podcast on transcreation as a service where we delve into how brands cross borders. I am Delfina Morganti Hernandez, a seasoned English into Spanish for Latin America and Argentina transcreation specialist, and today I have the pleasure of introducing a writer colleague. Hello and welcome to the podcast, Nathan Bennett.
Thank you, Delfina. Thank you for inviting me on to your podcast. As I've been mucking about LinkedIn, as I've been kind of doing reconnaissance for like what next job I'd like to do. The title of your podcast has a nice kind of literary kind of ring to it.
Yeah.
Then we had some nice interaction on LinkedIn. You recommended the book we're going to discuss today, and you invited me onto your podcast to discuss it, and here we are.
That's right. So Nathan Bennett is just about to hit the road as a freelance writer and editor. He's finishing 7 years in China and is going to Romania next. His resume is a string of onions rather than a climb up the corporate ladder. Each onion was decently successful, but what links them is that he strung them together. He's taught English, written poetry and fiction, played the bagpipes on the Great Wall of China, lectured on the insights from the novel Moby Dick for urban culture, and other things besides. Freelance writing helps him bring all that together into one job. Marketing helps him explain what could be in that for you. So welcome again, Nathan. I was just curious, as I was telling you earlier before we started recording this session together, bagpipes and other things besides. Do you have any anecdotes to share perhaps with us from your very rich background?
I mentioned some of those things just to give an idea of the fact that, okay, in 33 years, I haven't just been sitting on the couch playing video games. I don't usually play video games while sitting on the couch. But I do know how to play the Scottish bagpipes badly, and so, like, when I was teaching English in South Korea, I would take them to open mic nights. I don't know why nobody shot me. Maybe it's South Korean gun laws that protected me. Nobody stabbed me either, so that was good.
Wow.
Other things, I don't know what to bring up.
No, I mean, I think it's great for a writer to be a musician. Don't you?
Yeah, it's like one of the things a sort of friend of the family told me is that it's kind of a thing for intelligent people to have like a lot of different interests. It's like, so why can't I spend my whole life doing all of these 5 or 6 things?
Right.
Well,
right.
Anyway.
Do you still play? Do you still play the bagpipes?
I've got my small pipes here. The big pipes are in my mother's closet in California.
Right.
I'd like to get back into it, but
right. Okay.
That'll come.
Yeah, I think it's good for a writer to have a diverse background. And if you're a musician, for me, I play the piano. I'm not a professional, but I feel that studying music and still playing it, even if it's just a hobby, has helped me somehow grasp or better grasp the music in the words, and also sort of see writing from a different perspective. I feel it makes me a better, perhaps more unique writer. I don't know. Or I like to think of it like that. I don't know.
I like music. I like the idea of playing music from at least two angles. One is I just like it. So I mean it's a good thing. So if you get into it, it's like nobody's going to look at you funny for playing music. I mean, even the most posh people who say, "Oh no, you don't want to be an artist," there's still a recognition of being able to play music on an amateur level as a sort of human accomplishment. But cross training, where you're not just doing all of your focus and personal development on just this one thing, you're developing other things that can then feed back into what may be your main bread and butter of career or whatever.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, so let's move on to talk about This is Marketing by Seth Godin.
The title of your podcast has a nice kind of literary kind of ring to it.
Yeah. So Nathan Bennett is just about to hit the road as a freelance writer and editor. He's finishing 7 years in China and is going to Romania next. His resume is a string of onions rather than a climb up the corporate ladder. Each onion was decently successful, but what links them is that he strung them together. He's taught English, written poetry and fiction, played the bagpipes on the Great Wall of China, lectured on the insights from the novel Moby Dick for urban culture and other things besides. Freelance writing helps him bring all that together into one job. Marketing helps him explain what could be in that for you. So welcome again. Nathan, I was just curious, as I was telling you earlier before we started recording this session together, bagpipes and other things besides. Do you have any anecdotes to share perhaps with us from your very rich background?
I mentioned some of those things just to give an idea of the fact that, okay, in 33 years, I haven't just been sitting on the couch playing video games. I don't usually play video games while sitting on the couch. I do know how to play the Scottish bagpipes badly, and so like when I was teaching English in South Korea, I would take them to open mic nights. I don't know why nobody shot me. Maybe it's South Korean gun laws that protected me. Nobody stabbed me either, so that was good.
Well, I think it's great for a writer to be a musician.
Yeah, it's like one of the things a sort of friend of the family told me is that it's kind of a thing for intelligent people to have like a lot of different interests. It's like, so why can't I spend my whole life doing all of these 5 or 6 things?
Right.
Well,
so today we'll be discussing This is Marketing You Can't Be Seen Until You Learn to See, a book by Seth Godin. This book was first published in 2018. It almost instantly became a Wall Street Journal, Amazon, and New York Times bestseller. It sold more than 50,000 copies in just a few weeks. And Well, the official Penguin cover is orange, which makes it a personal favorite for me. It's a book about authenticity, an absolutely inspiring book because it's truthful and it inspires you to use marketing and define and understand marketing in a very positive and human light. If you go to seths.blog/tim, you can find a 30-minute podcast by Seth Godin himself, where he summarizes, let's say, the core of business marketing. And you can also find several video reviews and written reviews by real readers. You will also find where to buy this book. I just like to add that I'm not being paid to do this podcast episode on the book or anything, but I really like to recommend it to everyone listening. I think it's a great read for writers, copywriters, transcreators, marketing specialists. I think it's actually a must read. So now on to our discussion for some key takeaways on this amazing book with Nathan Bennett. So Nathan, I think that one of the key questions that could help us start discussing the book is, what is marketing from Seth Godin's perspective? Would you like to comment on your highlights?
He kind of gives his own content to what marketing is. Boiling down what he says right in the author's note right at the beginning, it's in one way or another creating change. More customers, more market share, more work, more revenue. It's better. You want better income, better in better market environment, better offerings for consumers, better culture, making change happen.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. Some takeaways from the podcast I was listening to yesterday. Seth says, if you're not making a change, you're not doing marketing. You're just wasting time and money.
Yes. I appreciate the practical side of that. It's like as I set out as a writer, whatever that's going to look like, I don't want to just be sending out copy-pasted messages. It's like, please hire me. Yes, but for what?
Right.
More on that later.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one could ask oneself, whatever one's business, right, or industry, what change I am trying to make, right? What's my purpose beyond selling what I do for money?
There's a way in which, like, finding satisfaction in your work is kind of beside the point of work, yet you want, in a way, your work to fit in the larger scope of what you believe is good about the world. So like, if you believe fundamental honesty is important, you would want to have like a really clear way of understanding why you're being a spy or something, like, because they've got to lie about everything.
Right. Some interesting quotes again are, for example, marketing is something we do for people. The purpose of marketing isn't to sell your stuff, it's to help your people get where they want to go.
Yes. Because it's like, when somebody says, you're speaking my language, that's, like it's more effective if you talk in terms of other people's interests.
Right. Yeah, and I was just thinking, right? It's not always about people's pains, right? Because as copywriters, this there are so many formulae that one can use to write copy and start with, your target readers' pains. And do you feel like you could do, I don't know, you could have a better life? Do you feel like frustrated with, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I feel, I don't know what your take on this is, but I feel that sometimes this kind of copy may be just too negative. I mean, by the time the reader reaches the point where you communicate the benefit of the product or service, I mean, they're already feeling so frustrated with their lives, with whatever's going on for them, that I don't know, maybe it may be counter-effective. What do you think?
Yeah, it's I mean, there's, on the one side, it's kind of fun watching late night infomercials, just kind of soaking in just the happy feeling of, oh, they're giving me this and that and that. They're giving me the good feelings from the advertisement. Certain kinds of copywriting, just talking about all my problems. Well, it's not that much of a problem.
Right.
It's not.
I didn't, yeah, sometimes I feel like, oh, I didn't even know I had this problem, right? Or that it was like so serious. I mean, I don't know if
That's a
it's that.
problem.
Right. So maybe, yeah, I think that what Seth Godin's trying to convey is that there's something bigger than, this picture where you have a product or you have a service and you want to put it out there in the market and sell it for X amount of money, right? And it has to do with your impact, because whether you like it or not, you will be making an impact. So the question is, as a marketer, what kind of impact do you want to make? For whom, right? Um, he refers to this as making a difference, as a chance to making things better for those we seek to serve, right? I think that throughout the book, we have this kind of lexical chain where we can see that he understands marketing as a service in itself, as doing something good for someone, for a group of people, not just one person, right?
A fuller understanding of the word service, not just it's something you do for someone that you're selling, but like serving in the more generous sense.
Exactly, from that kind of perspective. And that's what he calls good marketing, right? Seth Godin calls this good marketing. Right, and I was just curious because yes, we reached this point where we are recording this podcast episode together because we started chatting on LinkedIn. I recommended the book. You liked it. I was wondering, had you ever found anything like this? Had you ever thought of marketing in this way before?
I'm not sure. Part of where it really connected with me was that I've not done this kind of communication, like to sell something. I've done fundraising for different purposes through church, and even there, I could take something from this book. But I mean, like communicating with people to sell something, I have no idea where to begin. And for me, it's really exhausting contacting people for like to ask them for something. And so setting out as a freelancer, I need this to work. I need to know what I can believe in about what I'm doing. Right. So having the aim to serve with my messaging, that I find a way to like meet somebody's needs. I look at their situation and look for a need to help fill. This is it kind of gives more of a purpose to keep doing it than to just copy paste 20 pitches a day.
Right.
So it's because I know that I don't know what I'm about to get doing that I need to hear it from somebody.
So another key concept that Seth Godin discusses in this book, in several interviews, videos, talks everywhere, is the idea of the smallest viable market or the minimal viable audience. Maybe we could define this for our audience.
This is kind of one of the building blocks of the rest of the book. If you don't get this, you don't get the rest of the book.
That's true.
Our conversation is going to mostly cover the first part of the book, because like the rest of it it's like Seth Godin taking a sleeping bag and staying on your couch as long as you need to help you clarify more of the specific things. So it's like it's impossible to summarize, because like he literally wrote a book about it, because that's what needed to happen to cover the topic. But the minimum viable audience or market is having a target, the right size of who to serve.
And there's an example, very short one, that I would like to quote from the book. There are several case studies, and you will comment on some, but this is a very short one. So when the Union Square Cafe opened in New York, its founder, Danny Meyer, knew that he could only serve 600 people a day. That's all the dining room could serve. If you can only delight 600 people, the best way to begin is by choosing which 600 people. Choose the people who want what you are offering. Choose the people most open to hearing your message. Choose the people who will tell the right other people. That's the end of the quote. So the idea I think behind this minimal viable audience or smallest viable market has to do with this with segmentation in a way, grouping some people with common interests, common desires, common pains maybe, or pains in common, that you can serve in a way that that small number of people will make worth your effort. I mean, Seth Godin here is clearly straying from the idea that we should make things that are aimed at a massive audience, something that works for everyone, stuff like that, right? He's straying from exactly that perspective in a way. What do you think?
Yeah, then you can connect it as well to his funnel concept later, where at the wide part of the funnel, maybe theoretically all of those people could at some point be a paying customer of yours, but in one of the ways to catch a smallest viable market, you don't have to focus just on the people who are paying. If sometimes the way, like, so this podcast is a marketing effort. It's like, I haven't paid anything to download it and listen to it, but it gets me in the sphere of people who has heard of you. So then if at some point I wanted your help with a project, like in the Latin American market, yeah, I know this person who has this podcast, that getting the critical mass of paying clients, paying customers, it's not all choosing exactly which 600 people. You might have to choose the kind of people, because there's always people coming and going.
Right. Yeah. I think also, since you mentioned the podcast, for example, this is a very specific podcast. I mean, in fact, it's the first podcast on transcreation, as far as I know. And transcreation in itself is something very specific. In fact, even though, I mean, it's nurtured by several other domains like marketing, that's why we are discussing marketing, and we are writers, right? But yes, I think it has to do with making your product specific, with the idea that you shouldn't be afraid of saying no to certain groups of people beforehand. I mean, you have to make the decision to make something that is not average, right? In order for it to actually resonate with specific people. He says, Seth Godin says, do not focus on the biggest audience, not on how do I make average stuff for average people. That's old school marketing. Instead, what's the fewest people that I could change, do business with? Enough people who eagerly engage, I'd be fine with. Why? He says, because if we begin with the smallest viable audience, we won't dumb our product or service. What we get to do instead is serve people whom we want to serve, connect with people who want to be connected.
Especially in a creative line of work like writing or transcreation, translation, you need to be more focused. You need to have, if you were going to advertise for a medical product versus car parts, it's totally different vocabulary. It works out better for you and your potential customers if you focus your offering.
Right. Yes. You know, I work with, I mentor translators and provide training for translators for marketing and communication. And most of my translator colleagues are usually, especially if they're starting out, they're usually afraid of having to make these kind of choices, right? Like if they wonder if I communicate that I only want to work in these 2 or 3 fields or areas, or if I start specializing, what if someone comes with a project that's it's an important project and I turn it down? What if I do that? I mean, I shouldn't. And I say to them, no, you can. In fact, it would be better if you did, because you can't specialize in everything, and you probably won't be as good at translating clinical trial as you will be, I don't know, at translating a user manual for a truck or something. I mean, you can't do everything. I mean, you may try, but it's really hard for someone to be a specialist in everything, to be very, very good at working in, this very big number of things. It's not exactly a professional thing to do either. It's not well seen by clients in general. So, but they find it very hard to be specific, to define their target client, to work on their strengths and weaknesses, to make these choices. I mean, they are afraid of losing work. Have you ever experienced this as a writer, as a freelance writer? I know you're working on this, but
it's well, I mean, like for me, it's like right now I'm trying to absorb the things, I'm trying to absorb the advice from places like the freelance writing subreddit and other places, so that I start out with as much of a mature way of looking at it as I can. Like I'm a mid-career professional. I need this as much as possible to work. Like, so I need to do something better than just write for anybody. Now, kind of as a joke, I'll say officially, yeah, I guess I can try, talk to me, see what happens. I can say that, but I need to find a niche that is like one of the consistent bits of advice is to find a niche, to find to like find an ideal client as specific as possible. But I'm trying to have a lot of the big things in place, so that as I go out and then, like, when I leave my current job and I'm fully free to like go out into the mud and the dirt and everything and really get the hard work going, then I'll have something to focus the hard work it's going to take.
Right. Yes, and sometimes you don't find that niche until, as you said, you get into the mud, right? And experience things.
Yeah. Because I might try a few ideas and they just totally fail, which is fine. We'll get into some of the things I found later. I'll have another book recommendation or two. Because marketing, it's not just one and done. It's you need to communicate with new people. It doesn't matter how much you liked the old people; they don't have money anymore, or they're not interested in spending on your thing. You need new people.
Yes, as a freelancer, I mean, it comes with a job to be constantly searching for new clients. I always recommend that you do that when you have a steady workflow. Do not wait until you're experiencing these famine cycles, these feast and famine cycles that are usually talked about when it comes to freelancing, and also to do things in a manner that maybe you will be found by these clients. I think using LinkedIn for that, creating content, consistently creating content that's relevant for this minimal target audience that you may have pictured in your mind and that exists, because there should be a correlation between you imagine your client to be like and what they are like exactly. Well, I think that also can help. I'd like to quote just a very short extract from Seth Godin's book, where he talks about being specific. Here it goes. Specific is a kind of bravery. Specific means accountable. It worked or it didn't. It matched or it didn't. It spread or it didn't. Are you hiding behind everyone or anyone? You'll never be able to serve everyone, which is comforting since you're less likely to be disappointed when it doesn't happen. But what if you committed to the smallest viable audience? What if you were specific about who you were seeking to serve and precisely what change you were trying to make? Organize your project, your life, and your organization around the minimum. What's the smallest market you can survive on? I guess that pretty much summarizes, right, the concept of the smallest viable audience. Would you like to make any further comments on this, or we may move on to our next highlight?
Specific being a kind of bravery is interesting because it's people like confidence. you know, like even if you are in a position to employ a servant, you know, you like to have somebody who, like, you know, is quiet, confident, knows what they're doing, as opposed to, like, you know, people start asking, do you beat this person? Do you like what did you rescue this person from the street? What, you know, like the people you have, you know, it's like people want to have like a reasonable feeling of confidence in all the people around them. It's like,
Hmm.
so if you're able to be confident enough to be specific, it's like, okay, yeah, like, you know, this person knows what he's about, she's about, that they're on it.
Right. Yes, and it takes courage again, because the exact opposite emotion that you experience when you're not specific is this fear I was describing earlier on, right? The fear of missing out on other things. There's a quote by Steve Jobs that's also very well known, that I think it goes about knowing what not to do is as important as knowing what to do, or something like that. And it has to do with the idea of being able to say no too, right?
Yeah,
To narrow down,
absolutely.
to work on your niche and stuff like that. But again, it may not be that easy to make this decision until you kind of maybe experienced a little bit of everything, or at least that's one way to do it. Many people choose that way. In my case, for example, transcreation found me. And when it found me through a project, I realized that it all clicked into place, and that I was kind of made for transcreation. So I decided to be specific about it and to narrow down my efforts and to just go for it, because I knew that this was where I would fit in the translation industry. Um,
Yeah.
and that's it. But then again, before that, I was yes, translating other things that I could do, that I was able to do and got paid for, but wasn't kind of, really enjoying, or feeling that I was making any kind of change, let's say. So it wasn't very a very happy experience for me, or fulfilling, let's say, fulfilling experience. And then I realized that I could do this other thing, that there was high demand for this service, and that I could do it very well, and that I loved doing it. And well, so that was when I decided to be specific, right? Something that you like doing, something that you're good at doing, and something that's in demand right now. I think those three factors kind of make you specific in a way.
And the in-demand part is really great as a challenge, because there's all these, you know, weird and crazy things that I like, you know, reading about and other things like that. But it's like, if you leave me to myself, I guarantee you I will become like, oh, one of the weirdly eccentric. Just, but it's like, if you want to really have a good life, you need to connect with people. You need to kind of do things that they like. If you want to tell a joke, it has to connect with them, something about them, you
Mm.
know, like universal human reality. Even if you tell a weird joke that, you know, something from your life, it still has to kind of go back to something that everybody kind of knows, that it forces you to get outside yourself, not, you know, not in a way that suppresses whatever your wonderful personality is, but it's a way, in a way that makes you a bigger you.
It's true. It's true. Yes. Yes. So there's a template, right? That Seth
Yes,
Godin
yes.
shares. Would you like to quote it? I see you've put it in your notes very clearly.
Here we go. um his template from chapter 4 is, my product is for people who believe blank. I will focus on people who want blank. I promise that engaging with what I make will help you get blank.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very, very clear and succinct template. And also, I mean, you probably get to define these things and determine these things once you've decided on your smallest viable audience, right?
It's definitely an internal frame. It's definitely an internal skeleton. Like, you don't go directly from this to writing pitch emails.
No.
You like, it's like a skeleton into your skin. It's like your skin is not a restatement of your skeleton.
No, that's right. It's a great allegory, or analogy. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yes. Right. I mean, it's something that you have to know yourself before you go out there and communicate it. I always think of communication or copywriting as a way of translating your marketing decisions, right, into words. So unless you've defined these things beforehand, how can you communicate them to someone else? They're kind of like your roadmap. They have to be clear. This has to be clear for you before it's clear for someone else.
And you can follow a roadmap with a bus, a tractor, a car. You can even walk. But the guiding idea is the same in each case.
True. Yes. Everyone has a problem, a desire, a narrative. Who will you seek to serve? This is Seth Godin's challenge, right? In a way, I feel that the author is constantly challenging us, readers, when he says, for example, that all of us are marketeers, that all of us have the power and the potential with, the internet to reach whoever we feel like we could serve, help, and impact for the better. I constantly feel that he's sort of pushing the boundaries and instilling this ambition to push boundaries ourselves. I really like his style. I mean, it's very practical, it's concise. The book, I feel that you can read it. I mean, I'm a slow reader myself, but I felt that it has this nice pace with short chapters or subtitles that sort of walk you through the sections, and I think that's really good about a book, right? Because you can, I don't know, read it anywhere and still get all this inspiration along the way,
From chapter 11, there was the circumstance of an NGO working with trying to save lions somewhere in East Africa, and probably Kenya or Tanzania. I don't remember exactly. I just have my notes here. Their focus was saving lions, and the happy story. The happy ending at the end of the story is that they worked with the Maasai tribes to change manhood initiation from killing a lion to tracking and saving a lion and watching out for the lion's welfare. With the focus of this NGO is to save lions, do something about nature, and that is important. But then when you look at the interests of small groups like this, I don't know, do we call it 3D chess, 4D chess? It's like the human element is always the most important thing. For one thing, you want them to not be killing to not be killing the animals. But also, if you can get them on board with your project, you can make it a lot easier for the rest of your initiative if they're actually doing some of the work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So in this, marketing isn't just some side thing you're doing, it's being able to look at the specific problem you're trying to solve in the context of everything else that's going on. So if you're able to tell the bigger story, then when you go to when you're like the NGO people going to the Maasai tribes people, you can you can give them the whole story of, okay, here's all of East African ecology, and we know that you guys have these needs and you have these interests, and so you can get the people around you on board rather than just giving them one more thing to do or not do.
Mm.
It's that buying and selling, products and services. The human element is like this this protoplasm, this like this mysterious element that if you don't get that right, everything else falls apart. And so marketing is communicating to people to effectively get a change in a way that makes them happy participants in the exchange.
It's true. I loved your definition. I'll quote it later on in the description of this episode. To make the people you serve to, feel part of what you're doing, not necessarily making them do the things that you have to do. I don't mean that, but I mean to make them feel they're part of something bigger, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the cause. And I think that many organizations nowadays are understanding this in a way that they are translating into things that they do for their corporate culture, right? When there are kind of these initiatives where all employees get together to do, I don't know, to have barbecue or on a Sunday, for example, or to do something other than just work together and to foster teamwork and everything else and leadership and blah blah blah. But it also has to do with staying together because there's a common cause, right? That we have a higher aim. We're all in this together, and yes, humankind, we humans are more attracted to staying within groups, to fitting in, to having peers around we can relate to and connect with, than being isolated and doing everything on our own. And it has to do with our instinct also of protection, of being part of a horde of others, of other human beings. We have this tendency to connect. So if marketing can be used to somehow trigger the right emotions and group people under a specific cause and create this kind of change, I think it's a great and very powerful tool, but with great power comes great responsibility, right? So we have to use it for good, for the better. And that's good marketing, according to Seth Godin.
Yeah.
As you were reflecting on all these things out loud, I also I remembered this phrase by Simon Sinek, the author of Start With Why, and in one of his TED Talks, about the most famous one, right, that has to do with how great leaders inspire action. He says that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? This cause, higher aim, purpose.
Yes.
It needs to be clear. It needs to be clear in our communication. And also, if we manage as writers to speak to that part of the human brain that kind of decodes emotions, well, again, we are much more likely to have a message be memorable, and because it will be linked to emotions. So I feel, I mean, it's a great power, like I said, but it comes with great responsibility, or at least it should be used with great responsibility.
Even power, it's not just like directing electricity to where you want it to go. It's kind of like there's a way in which it's like obedience to a higher law, like physics. You're doing things the way things are supposed to go, and so people kind of have a sense of that, even if they don't know how to put their finger on what's going on. It's that you're all part of the same flow of how everything works in the world. So if you're part of that, then people see that and say, okay, yeah, this is a good person, good product, good all that. So it's not just power, it's shared ethos, shared way of doing things. You know, because I'm not interested in merely powerful people, you know, like dragons that burn the countryside and eat peasants and need to be killed by knights in shining armor. They're powerful. I don't want to buy anything from them.
Right. I agree. So we have also, I mean, just to round up this episode, marketing in 5 steps, right? Seth Godin sort of outlines if anything like this could be done, he's done it, right? 5 steps to marketing. Would you like to for us to read one to take turns?
Sure thing.
Okay, go ahead, you start.
The first step is to invent a thing worth making, with a story worth telling and a contribution worth talking about.
The second step is to design and build it in a way that a few people will particularly benefit from and care about.
The third step is to tell a story that matches the built-in narrative and dreams of that tiny group of people, the smallest viable market.
The fourth step is the one everyone gets excited about. Spread the word.
The last step is often overlooked. Show up regularly, consistently, and generously for years and years to organize and lead and build confidence in the change you seek to make, to earn permission to follow up, and to earn enrollment to teach.
Which one is your favorite step?
I don't know if I kind of see them more like phases, where every successive step includes the previous one. Like say the fourth step, everyone's excited. Okay, spread the word. well, you still need to have things to spread the word about. I could get a bullhorn and spread words, but I mean, it's like just because I like shouting.
Right.
I need to be continually devising products or services that meet needs. I need to be thinking about the story, because I could take the same product and it meets 10 different needs in 10 different markets. You know, like marketing is an ongoing thing, because like sometimes you don't really have the ability to come up with a new product or service, but there are new people who can use it.
True. Yes. I think I like the last one best, maybe because of what you said, that in a way it includes all the others, but also because of this idea of building confidence in the change you seek to make, but in the long run, right? To not just forget once you've completed steps 1 to 4, right? That you need to keep nurturing your efforts, the people. I find a real, I mean, this book particularly resonated with me as a speaker, a trainer, a mentor. This idea of following up, earning enrollment to teach, how one can, make an effort to create something beyond the transaction, right? And
Yeah.
again, like you said earlier on, the human element, right? Something beyond the movement of buying and selling, even if that means, for me, right? Even if that means I won't necessarily get paid for every marketing effort I do after that. I may not actually get paid, or want to monetize these after selling efforts. But I think that this idea of building something bigger than you, building something bigger than your product, and that may be your brand, right? Is so important. Something bigger than a company's CEO, right? And to not have the brand or the identity or the institution, organization, the team, the community die after the leader dies, or die with the leader, right? I think that's so important. That's what worries me in a way, as a solopreneur, right? When I constantly ask myself, what if I die tomorrow? What will people remember about working with me? I did a post recently on this on LinkedIn. What change would I have sparked, if any, among this small viable audience that I'm seeking to influence through the things that I do? And I think in a way that helps me keep seeing marketing as this, right? As this, and as in how Seth Godin puts it in This Is Marketing, the human element at its core, with the people first, but really with seeing people first. That means first, before their pockets, whether there is any money in them, and whether it will come to me, right? So that's what works for me. That's how I like to approach marketing.
There's a way in which the smallness of buying and selling is also liberating, because once you've made enough for you to, like, not have to eat instant noodles all the time, once you've got enough, you're done. It doesn't have to be about the whole world. It's about improving your little corner of it, so that somebody on the other end doesn't have to worry about anything coming out of your corner. They can focus on their corner. The possible modesty for not aggressively competitive marketing is liberating, because then once you've made what you need, you're done.
Mm-hmm. Right? And you may want to scale up your business, or you may not. And that's also a decision that you have to make, right? Not everyone has to own a startup and then sell it and then, become a Wall Street company. You don't necessarily have to do that. And you can still make an impact. And you don't, I always say that you don't need to be an influencer to influence people, to make an impact. And I think that's what this book is about. The idea that we are all, in a way, marketers, or we can be, provided we find a way to do better things for people. So that's it. I think that we've covered most of the highlights that we drafted in our notes. Thank you so much, Nathan Bennett, for sharing this time with me, for investing your time in this episode. I hope you've had a good time. I know I have.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was, and I hope it will be useful for the people listening. I hope that our colleagues, writers, transcreators, marketers will find this book and read it and enjoy it very much. Thank you again, Nathan.
Yeah. There's just one thing I would like to add. There's a book on innovation called Inside the Box. It's one of the tips in that book is you don't create a focus group to see what people want. You see what you have, and then you try to come up with problems that could be a solution for. This book teaches like about 5 different ways to change what you have so that you can find a new problem for it to solve. Inside the Box is a book that has really helped go into a lot of how I think about shaping marketing.
Great, thank you. The author?
Drew Boyd and Jacob Goldenberg.
Good.
It's here in the notes.
All right. We'll leave a note, a written one, so that everyone can look it up. I will. I know I will. I like this idea of a focus group that you mentioned. How given a twist to how you spot problems and come up with solutions. I think also that, it's also aligned with what Seth Godin suggests. At one point he says, it's not that you have a product and you want to just, push it into the market. The better way to do marketing would be, okay, I look around, I identify a problem, I try to come up with a solution that will serve the people experiencing the problem, right?
Yeah, because sometimes people don't know what they want or could conceivably need. And you have to use information from real people. You have to ask people, you have to talk to people, but you don't just go around asking, so what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Come up with a thing.
Well, Steve Jobs also said once that many people don't know what they want until they see it.
Yeah.
So it's true. It's true. So yes, it takes courage to build something and put it out there. But if you don't, how are you going to know whether it works? So you could be missing on a great opportunity. So yes, let's do it. Well, thank you again, Nathan, for this book recommendation. I really hope our audience will profit from it. Again, And that was another episode of Founded in Transcreation. Stay tuned for more interviews with transcreators, copywriters, and marketing as well as branding specialists during this season 2 of Founded in Transcreation.